you. So can we talk about spreading of the message? So what's the role of national and local media in disseminating extremist messages from your perspectives? So I'm really interested, Jesse and Jeff, just to start us off, how did you use that to your advantage in the past when you were pushing out message points, using the media knowing what they could or couldn't do? How did that frame your approach?
Well, I think I'll start because we kind of spearheaded that with jihadism, and now the far right is just emulating it. I mean, we could get into the press. Some of the stuff that we espoused publicly was just to get into the press, right? And so they put us on CNN and they would put us on Fox News. But the number one thing that we concentrated on was we knew that if we could get the anti-Islamic bloggers to get more awareness and to arm them with the ammunition they needed to say that the Muslims were coming to implement Sharia law, that we could create a further divisive polarization. And that if we created an anti-Muslim sentiment, then we would confirm our narrative that they were waging a war against Islam, because we could just point to Pamela Geller as our evidence. And so it wasn't so much the mainstream media. Mainstream media was great because your website will go from getting a couple thousand hits a day to getting hundreds of thousands of hits a day. So, you know, we kind of had mastered that art form. It's very interesting the way that media works, because you would think that there would be an overwhelming interest in promoting some positive work, like the work that we're doing. If we were out there, you know, promoting a rally against, for white civil rights or something, we'd have massive media lined up today. Nobody wants to cover the positive stories because that's not what sells and gets ratings. And so it's the sensationalism that drives the media, and the symbiotic relationship between extremist movements, terrorist movements, and the media. It's so easy for us to exploit that, and we used to always do that. And immediately what you do then too is what people don't realize is if you can draw media to your website or to your social media account, your number of followers go up, but you also get up higher in the rankings of Google search engines. So you start to appear, not anymore, they sort of come around that, and now they've actually made it even worse without realizing it. But yeah, I mean, there's a really important, the importance of getting into the mainstream media with the activity that you do is key to the work of a recruiter and a radicalizer.
And for us in the National Socialist Movement, we had a press release department. We actually had a guy that was a journalist before that would write it in the way that you would submit it to the press, and would send out mass emails to all the press in the area at the time, and we'd send it, you know, I'd tell them, like, in the subject line, put Nazi, put something that's going to jump out, you know, because if you just put National Socialist Movement press release, a lot of the press wasn't going to look. So we became sort of experts in a sense on how to manipulate that. We knew it wasn't going to be good press no matter what, but that didn't matter. As long as they weren't saying really, really bad things, we knew that we could reach the public through the press like nothing we ever did before. So we would do public rallies, and we'd announce we were going to be here. We'd sometimes challenge people to debates and things like that. Anything to generate press and activity. It would focus traffic to our websites, to our shows and things like that, and it would you're gonna break through and get to some people no matter what. And for us, it was, even if we spend the time and energy going to a city and say we only have 20 guys out there, which is a small number by comparison, if those guys are flying NSM flags, the press is going to come out. If the Antifa comes out and attacks us, even better, because now there's violence and the press has to report on it, even if there's a media blackout, because that's been a tactic. We started wondering why in some areas the press wasn't covering us, because they were non-eventful events. If we clashed with the other side, guaranteed press. So that takes away, I think, you're looking at it from the side of the left as well. They think they're going to stop the movements by initiating violence and attacking people that are in the movement. It does just the opposite. The guys would thrive on that sort of thing. You know, they would say, we did an event in Mississippi one time in Tupelo, and the police sort of cordoned off the area. So there was like a handful of people from the downtown area. There was police and press. And the guys that were there with us was National Socialist Movement and Klan that time. And they said this was the most boring rally, uneventful rally they'd ever done. It was demoralizing from the standpoint of the movement. Now, other times, like we had a big street fight in New Jersey, they said, why can't we have that again? You know, they knew in the National Socialist Movement, you couldn't attack somebody It was against our rules. I had done this for 27 years total. Never had not one person from the National Socialist Movement arrested for violence at a rally because we knew it was our rules and our guidelines that you did not hit somebody first. If you were hit, you defended yourself. But to say that people weren't hoping or wishing for that violence would be incorrect, because that would turn that into something that they thrived on. So the far left thinking they're going to shut down these groups by punching a Nazi in the face or something like that, absolutely doesn't work. It's what they want.
Okay. So to combat that, then what's the strategy? Knowing that that inciting violence is the #1 way to kind of push out messages in a lot of ways, get that press, what's the alternative then if you know that the other side is trying to kind of quell this?
There's a few different ways of looking at it. I feel like in this country, everybody has the right to protest, whether you're on the right, the left, the center, or wherever in between. You should have the right to do that. And it's kind of a complicated thing, because in some ways, like in the example of Mississippi, there was hardly anybody there. So it was demoralizing to the people that were coming. But the counter argument from the other side is if you just allow it, then these guys are going to grow because more people are going to come out and hear it. So I think it really depends on the way one looks at it. Peaceful protesting is fine. I think peaceful counter-protesting is fine. But the moment it crosses that line into violence, whatever side it's coming from is wrong. And I think that's where law enforcement needs to come in, and typically they do. They'll separate it. They'll take in people that have committed criminal acts, and that's good. But I think either ignoring completely from, we're talking from the street level counter-protester, is that what you're asking? Mm-hmm. From the street level counter-protester, either be 100% peaceful or stay home.